in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are live on YouTube.
Good evening, everyone.
Oh,
My name is.
1 second. Right, I'm gonna admit someone, and Diane, you're on.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. My name is Diane Murray Ward. This is Space Triggering, and I'm so happy that Art in the Basin has decided to host with me this wonderful workshop. This is workshop 2. Last week we had 1. This is 2, and next week, October 4th, will be the last session. These are standalone workshops, and Space Triggering is a subsection of etc., etc. It is a writing program that I am developing and will probably have ready for publication next year. My publisher is very excited about this. It's a series of writing prompts, and it gives you a chance to just think outside of the box. These are exercises or ways of looking at our work and using it in different ways. And as writers, we're always so very, very creative. And this is just another way of thinking, maybe there's something else I can do, another way of looking at my words, situations, and etc. So I think that you'll enjoy it. I hope you do. You have a work folder, and in that work folder, you will find the handouts. The handouts will also include material from all 3 sessions. So I'm also going to do some things live that hopefully will encourage and entice you to want to try some of the exercises that I'm suggesting. So as usual, start off right from the beginning with something that will warm you up. When we look at colors, what I'd like to know is, how do colors change? From dark pink to light pink to scarlet pink to baby pink to blush pink. Please explain to me, how do colors change hues? You've got 5 minutes just to warm you up. You're on the clock. How do colors change hue? It's just a warm up so we can get on to some more fun stuff. Space triggering. Three minutes left. Is it chemical? Is it emotional? How do we get colors that change from hue to hue? What happens? Molecular? Again, this is session 2 of 3. Each one are stand-alone sessions. All 3 have to do with space triggering. Would anyone like to share?
I'd like to share.
Thank you, AJ.
It's a poem. Blue, tight, roped heart, clenched in red fist of passion. Squeeze, love. Squeeze out magenta memories of golden entanglement. I miss you. That's all.
That's all. That said a lot. That sounds as if it may have been more than one instance. You know, you had a chance to soak in that magenta a little. Yeah, that's no, that was really great. I appreciate that. Yes, I appreciate that. And what I like is that you use colors other than what we usually think of in the rainbow, right? You know, Roy G. Biv, you went with magenta. I mean, that's not a word I don't think I've ever used in a poem, but now I'm going to think about it. It's a great color. It's like a crimson and claret and cranberry, I think, color. So, I mean, but it has a lot of depth. And that's what I like about that. So I'm glad you used magenta. I'm going to have to add that to my list of words to use. Thank you. Does anyone else like to share anything? All right, that was beautiful. Thank you, Finbel. Thank you. Thank you so much for returning, Finbel. I appreciate that. Finbel, would you like to share? Please do.
Yes, thank you. I was so delighted by the first one. I wanted to get more inspiration from this one. So I saw this as sunrise. Sunrise is my favorite changing of colors. So I want to dance alongside, I did it as a sort of poem. I want to dance alongside the changing of the sunrise hues, barefoot and toes digging safety, grounded in a Mother Earth's love language of trial and giving. Dusky remains pink, resilient. It yields to the rival of the sun. It's not supposed to say arrival, but I think that was kind of like a Freudian thing. Nudging clouds in the sky, it brings pearl-hued iridescence, a deep rosy blush of the previous night, mingling it with the baby rose petal dewdrops scattered among the lusty whale. Newborn leaves, we hear you, you are here, you are alive.
Oh, that was beautiful. And you know, one of the exercises, it's so interesting. Finbel and I'm so grateful and I feel so blessed that she is in my sphere of influence, because one of the exercises that I thought I would use for space triggering is sunrise, sunset. So it's really interesting that you provoked that, but it's so interesting. It is one of the exercises that I was going to use, and I love the way that you took me on a journey. I mean, for those of you that don't know, Finbel is someone that can transport you with her writing, so you really need to give her a following if you don't know her. And she does that, like I said, just magically because she has the muse at her fingertips. And so beautiful. Thank you so much, Benbell. I see we have Ed and we have Generalissimo joining us. Gentlemen, I was just doing a warm-up exercise, but having to do with color. And the exercise was, how do colors change hue from dark to light to medium to pale? And I used it as a warm-up exercise. So if you'd like to catch up with that one, that's fine. Let me go on to the next piece we wanted to present here, and this is a piece that's in your folder. AJ, please pull up the one that looks like melons in a jar, in a platter, and in this one, what I want you to consider, and I'm going to give you a scenario because with all of these, I'm presenting a scenario. You are located outside of the universe. These look like melons, look like kiwi and honeydew and cantaloupe, but actually, these are worlds. These are universes. And within each of these universes, there are seeds. And each of those seeds are actually the planets that are held together by sinews, these threads. But you're looking outside because you're above all these universes. And what I'd like you to try to do is to take yourself into one of those universes and tell me about that universe. Tell me about the people or things or beings in that universe. Tell me whether or not to you they're planets. Tell me whether or not you're greater than or why you built them, or whether or not you rather stay out here, outside of these universes. I'll give you 6 minutes. Again, you're outside of this. You're looking down on these planets or universes. Within each one are seeds. Are these seeds planets? Are they beings? What are they? You tell me. To some people, it looks like a platter with spheres. You tell me. Is there significance to what looks like a scarf? You tell me. You're traveling. They look like melons, but we know better. You tell me. You have 6 minutes. You're on the clock. 5 minutes. Four minutes. Two minutes. There's more to the universe than I think meets our eye, so to speak. So I like the idea of traveling outside, inside, between. Um, yeah. And the addition of a polka dot, what looks like a scar, I thought was a nice little added touch, which you can discern any way you like because you're looking outside. Would anyone like to share? It's not required. There's no pressure. Again, it's just to give you ideas. This is what I call space triggering. Gives you ideas. I see a hand raised, the fantastic Ed Potastic, who's known for being fantastic. There's no other muse quite like him. So we just sit back and hum because he is so much fun. Take it away, Ed.
Thank you. Thank you, sweet Diane. I just need to give you a cheers and a hand. Thank you for being the woman that's on the man. That is always flowers every time you stand. These right planets are huge domes. I feel like an ant in a honeycomb. Can I call one of these planets home? I feel like a tourist lost in Rome. I feel like a vowel in a poem. I feel like a note in a metronome. Will this be a vacation or a mobile home? I feel like these gigantic spirals could be my home, sweet home. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, one of them could be your home. I mean, maybe you're dreaming. You know, you're outside of that planet. I mean, come on. You might have been the one that built this. I mean, maybe one of them could be your home. That's a great, I like that. That's the spirit of space triggering. You think you're where you're seated right now, but are you really? You might be in one of those melons. And we just
Exactly.
having this, hello. I love it. Thank you, Ed. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That was wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for joining.
Of course, I
Finbel?
can miss this.
Yeah. Ah, Finbel, I see you put yours in the chat. Do you want me to read it? Do you want to read it? What would you like to do, Finbel? Okay. Okay. Let me see if I can read it. Universe in the planet of a melon. To a melon poised and round upon the kitchen counter, I believe I am both infinitesimal and infinite. Oops, I lost it. I believe I am both infinitesimal. Oh, wow, I like that. Is that the whole thing? I believe I am. I believe I am both infinitesimal and infinite. That brings a breath of conceit, chased by a breath stealing, humbling. I am no bigger and no smaller than anything or anyone. Gazing up at a moon, grinning back down. Woo! That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Yes, I am the goddess of the moon. Yes, that's true. So I'm gazing down at you. And Mayari and I wish you every blessing. All right. Does anyone else want to share what they wrote? That's quite all right. There's no pressure. Ah, Brian, I think I see your hand up, Brian.
Yes,
Please
this is
unmute.
this is not written down. This was off the top of my head. What if the millions upon millions of years all of our planets have existed is but an hour on the breakfast table of somebody in some other galaxy? Pretty fruit. It's like looking at star fruit and papaya and mango and even honeydew and cantaloupe. And what they're seeing is Earth and Mars and Venus and even little Pluto. I guess Pluto would be a little passion fruit or something like that. Little seeds inside. We don't know here on Earth if there has been life on other planets, but think that our planet and us and the elk and the dogs and the birds are all the seeds inside the planet on that breakfast table before they decide to slice it open, enjoy the juice. They might even separate the seeds and toast them up for a tasty snack later. So when we look at the fruit on our table, should we not think of what universe we are eating?
Thank you. Thank you. And that really epitomizes what I'm trying to get at. Thank you so much, Brian. And it's so funny you mentioned star fruit because I had some last week, and it was so interesting. And dragon fruit, which I don't know how many people know what dragon, but if you get a chance to look it up, dragon fruit, another very interesting looking fruit. And I find that when I look at star fruit, when I look at guanabana, when I look at kiwi, when I look at what some people consider exotic, but it depends on where you're from and what you're used to. I mean, you can even look at a melon or an apple or an orange or a tangerine or this fruit they used to call fugly because it was ugly, because it was a cross between a grapefruit and a tangerine or something like that. And it was a very bumpy, ugly looking fruit, but it was really quite delicious. But you know what we do, and that's just fruit. You know, you look at cherries, you look at grapes, you look at all these wonderful, wonderful gifts we have in the bounty of fruit and vegetables and everything else. Yes, you can write an ode to a plum if you like, you know. I mean, there's so much for us to write about. And for someone, let's say, who has never tasted that particular fruit, well, then that might be part of our calling as well, to expand someone's experience beyond perhaps what they may be used to. They might be used to bananas, they might be used to watermelon, they might be used to pomegranate, you know, which is another mysterious, wonderful fruit. So
Yes,
I like the fact that you think, I like the fact that you can see that we can be in the universe, outside of that universe, in that world, part of that world. I don't know how juicy we are in that world. I don't know how much we gain to help people. Do we quench anyone's thirst when we do this, when we write? That's another way of looking at writing. Do we quench someone's thirst? Do we make someone more parched? I think that's the opposite of what our writing does. I think we are called upon as writers to add flavor, to add essence, to add volume to our readers.
You know, it's
What were
generally
you going to say? Mhm.
it's generally thought that the fruit from the Garden of Eden was more of a fig or a pomegranate, but it was just not pretty enough from the outside to put in a painting, so they made it into an apple.
I hadn't thought of that, but
But when you look at
okay.
a pomegranate,
But pretty depends on who's looking at it. I mean,
but when you
you
slice them in
know, you
half,
can find beauty in a whole lot of colors.
what's on the inside of a fig, the inside of a fig or a pomegranate looks like is absolutely spectacular. You know, sometimes you have to dissect to get to the most beautiful part.
Well, you know, I beg to differ because, especially with pomegranates, I mean, there are people that make earrings that look like pomegranate, really, pomegranate seed, the pomegranate half, the pomegranate whole. I mean, the colors. But anyway, again, this is another way of me expanding what we can go on and on. This is what I like about space triggering and the whole idea of et cetera, that we've taken this to a whole nother level, which again is worthy of us writing and sharing, because it's our way of showing creative energy. And I think even with something like a melon or a kiwi, that some people might just overlook and say, oh, it's in the basket, or it's just sitting there. There's so much wealth that we can gain from engaging in that kind of dialogue. So I really do appreciate that. And I'm glad that, you know, as participants to this, that you've embraced the idea of everything isn't necessarily the way it just looks, just sitting there. There's more to it. There's more energy to it than just looking at it right there. So the next piece I want to show you is also in your folder. It is called The Clouds. I think that AJ can put that up on our screen so you can see that it is in your folder. And I want you to look at it in a certain way. And the idea again, now these are clouds between buildings. It's taken in New York City. And I want you to tell me whether or not you see something in the clouds. Some people read clouds. Is this before or after a storm? Is this evening? Is this night? Is there anything that you discern within the different shadings? It's not a black and white picture, as you can see. Tell me about the people in the buildings. Tell me about the season. Tell me about the smells or the atmosphere or the season. Tell me. Tell me what you think you see. You have 5 minutes. You're on the clock. 3 minutes. Would anyone like to share? I wrote a Deku for this one. Okay. My Deku, which you know is the Diane form of haiku. I'm still using the 5-7-5 syllabic requirement. And it goes like this. An evening blanket, cold, gray, and I have worked hard. My mattress awaits. An evening blanket, cold, gray, and I have worked hard. My mattress awaits. You can tell where my mind was as I walked down the street between concrete. Couldn't wait to get home. That cloud reminded me, aha, yes, at the end of that tunnel, relief, yes, it's coming. Anyone else had an interpretation? I mean, there's plethora of interpretations, obviously, but that's one. Some people see unicorns and all kinds of stuff in clouds. Some people see the fluffiness. Some people just are overcome by the way the buildings kind of fence you in. It's sort of rigid. I've had people say they felt confined, blocked in, almost couldn't breathe, which was really very, very interesting. So yes, I'd like to hear. Generalissimo, I see your hand is raised, and then after you, we'll have Ed. Yes, General. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Dare I guess the cause of the fissure in the late afternoon sky? What looks like a finger line a young child made in a wedding cake when she thought no one was looking. Was it worth it to taste the sugary icing ahead of time when everyone said the wedding pictures with the cake were ruined and the little girl was discovered as the culprit? Is this disruption in the clouds a sort of meteorological migraine of a storm that doesn't come to fruition, or is it just an inconsiderate pilot who severed the sky because he could?
That you took us to two places. I saw the icing also. I like that. Too bad she got caught, but I kind of figured she would because the icing was on the top of her lip. I'm just saying. And the pilot, yeah, I thought of how did it get that almost like a or a ribbon or a zigzag or a line or something in there, you know? And then I also thought, well, maybe clouds, you know, envelop each other or overlap each other, or again, thought of sheets. Ah, yes, the folds of sheets, you know, I mean, it's so interesting to take. I like the icing one though, because then I started thinking of sweetness. I started thinking of cake. I started thinking of those kinds of things. So you took me there. But then when you went to the pilot, I kind of thought of, well, you know, maybe he's having a joyride. Maybe something, you know, happy happened. Maybe he's just flitting through the air. Maybe he got a promotion. Maybe, you know, his girlfriend or whoever his significant other is said they love him, you know, and he loves them too. I mean, to me, it just, those were the other ways of thinking about it. Okay. And to me, that picture could have very easily have been used in a card that said all the things we just said in a card. So thank you very much, Brian. I like how you've embraced the whole idea of it could be so many things. Thank you, Brian. And Ed, please unmute and share.
Thank you. Like they say, if you share, you care. Thank you for being over here and there. Um, I get lost in the sky like a bag in the wind. The milk covering my eyes. I wish the summer didn't end. I could believe, but will I? Float on calmly, my misty friend. I would give anything to fly. I wish I can jump and transcend. I wave my doubtful worries goodbye. I could fly to the neverlands of pretend. I'll float quickly, then a why or a sigh, traveling to the bay blue of the ascend. Thank you.
Whoa. So you also thought of travel. You also thought of taking it to another place. You thought of the sky. I guess my response was more earthly. It was more, and it was more about me. And of course, I could always count on Brian to bring in some kind of sweets or cake or something. That was partly me because I started off with fruit. That was partly me, and I appreciate that. That, but I think that the idea of flight again, because it's sky, nobody really hooked in on the buildings, which I thought was kind of interesting. Um, it's is anyone looking at us as we walk down this path? All the buildings, everybody's gone from work. Is it just the cleaning people maybe in there? The lights were off. It was almost kind of spooky, except that it was still early evening. So it wasn't like that late at night that I was walking down. It just seemed fascinating to me, which is why I had to take the photo. It was a little eerie, but not quite. Okay, I'm going to quickly do one more exercise before I have Amy Joy rather, tell you all about art in the basin. And I'm so happy we have happen to have Tim with us tonight. Thank you so much, Tim. As I wrote in the chat, these are the two masterminds of Art in the Basin. So I have in my hand a button, a button, a button, a button. Did the button fall down or did the button fall up? Did the button fall down? Did it fall on paper? Did it fall on water? Did it fall on sand? Did it fall to the ground? Did it fall on my computer? Where did it fall? You tell me. You have 3 minutes. Where did it fall? And I'll tell you the truth. Where did it fall? In water? On paper? On sand? On the ground? Did it fall heads up or heads down? Because this is a button that's flat on one side and has the hole to sew it on the other. So it's a button that has a heads and a tail. Sure, some of you think it fell down. Well, what did it land on? Sand, water, cloth, my computer, table, chair. You tell me. You have a minute. And I'll tell you the truth. And I'll tell you why this exercise is interesting, because depending on whether the button falls up, whether the button falls down, depends on what I'm going to write. And that is part of triggering. Heads up, heads down. Again, very simple. It's a button. Or is it really a button? Anyone want to take a guess what it fell on? Depending on what it falls on, it sounds differently. It's still a button. But if you take something as simple as a button and you make it fall on different items, it sounds different for a reason. Did it bounce off Jell-O? Did it bounce off pudding? Did it fall in water, sand, cloth, paper, a computer? Okay, I'll tell you. Fell right on my notebook. It fell right on my notebook. On paper. And that's a trigger for me to say, I've got to write something about this. And the sound that it made on paper, lined paper, white paper, blue lines. Maybe there's a connection between this button and the paper. White paper on blue line, not blank paper. So again, it's just another way looking at your craft and giving you something to write about in the event that you think it's nothing to write about. I want to thank Art in the Basin, AJ and Tim, and I want to give them some time to really talk about what they're doing as well. And I hope to see some of you next week. Thank you, AJ. It's all yours.
Thank you, Diane Ward, right? Like, what a great leader for your imagination. You've really triggered us, and some beautiful work came out tonight. I just want to give you guys some updates about Art in the Basin this Saturday. we are having a poetry slam, collaborating with Bethany Arts Community in Ossining, New York. If you're interested in competing in this poetry slam, please email us at artinthebasin. That is ARTINTHEBASIN @gmail.com. Come on out, compete. There is so much going on that weekend. There's a dance performance right before the poetry slam, and directly after the poetry slam, there's an interesting art opening about space as well. Utilizing space and talking about parallels, dimensions, and cool things like that. So come check it out. It's this Saturday at in Ossining, Bethany Arts Community. You could find out more about Bethany Arts Community at bac.org. And we have our season opening for AITB HOM and our featured readers. We're going to open with Teresa Daly, who has just published her new book, Wild Atlantic Soul. I call it was. But the name of the book is Wild Atlantic Soul. You could find it on Amazon, and that will be October 10th. She will be live at Monomore Coffee and Wine, 234 West 238th Street in the Bronx, NYC. And that's all the updates I have for now. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this, and hope to see you next week. And I hope everybody out there in the YouTube land have found some value. And if you did, smash that like button, right? Thank you all.